Alright, hey guys, remember CCG back in the video. With this, we'll bring you guys a Mimighoul deck profile and says post Rage of the Abyss. So Mimighoul is a TCG exclusive archetype, and we got a new line of support here, and so I wanted to bring you guys a deck profile and some combos that are going to be coming out real soon right after this deck profile. But besides that, let's get started here with 3 copies of Mimighoul Dragon. Mimighoul Dragon is insane. It was good before this support, and it's even better now. Mimighoul Dragon and Archfiend now are pretty consistent, because with Maker we had a little bit of a gamble when you would use this card. You would prefer to get one over the other, but now, as you're going to see with the combos video, whichever one you get here can give you a full combo, so it's always good to see. So you really want to maximize this, and Mimighoul Dragon specifically, if you just get this card, it's a really good one card combo that you can use with this card. But otherwise, when the main thing that you need to know is that this card here, when it's a normal or special summon, it lets you add a Mimighoul spout from your from your deck to your hand. So a spout trap from your deck to your hand, and not only that, but it could also pop your opponent's board, which could be useful at times. 3 copies of Archfiend. This card gives your deck some flexibility, as it makes it so that when it's normal or special summon, you can just flip the other card. So that makes it so it's not too bad if your opponent happens to get the other card and you get Archfiend here. But if they do get Archfiend and you flip it, they lose a card and you draw a card. Very good card here. 3 copies of Mimighoul Fairy. So Mimighoul Fairy is pretty nice. It's able to special summon itself out, which makes it easy to go into the rank 1s. But besides that, when it's flipped on your opponent's board, it does make it so that your opponent cannot activate the effects of monster special summon from the hand, which is pretty annoying for them. But I'm just running 3 copies here just because there isn't a lot of Mimighoul monsters that are better than like these 3 here. We do have these guys, which I'm going to cover as I've just moved them out of the deck. But Fairy is also able to special summon itself on the board, which is really great. Just makes it super easy to exceed. Mimighoul Master here is the essential part of the deck, just because it gives you a way to flip your opponent's things during their turn, and so it makes it pretty annoying for your opponents to have to deal with that. But the reason we only run 1 copy now is because we do have our Mimighoul Throne here that is able to summon out the master from your hand, deck, or grave. So you just need the 1 copy and you can just cycle it. And then from here we have Mimighoul Slime, which is nice. It was a great replacement to Cerberus, just because it does give you an extender in the form of a special summon from your deck, so that's always great to see. And then hand traps, I run 3 copies of Nibiru, 3 copies of the new Mocharmy Fulros. It's a decent one for you to try here, as I covered in a recent video. It seems like Maxi is being divided into multiple cards, and this is the other card here. And the main thing that you need to know about this is that each time your opponent special summons a monster from the deck and or extra deck, you get to draw a card. And of course you do, depending on how big your opponent's board is. If they end up with a small board, you're gonna have to put some cards back, but either way it lets you clean up your hand a bit. 3 copies of Ash Blossom because it's Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Infinite Permanence so that you can get some negates here. Then we have 3 copies of Mimighoul Maker. So Mimighoul Maker is nice because it gives you a way of giving your opponent a card for you to flip. And not only that, but it gives you a free special summon so you can activate your Mimighoul monster's effects. Again, like I said, the main 2 that you want to go for that are pretty safe are Dragon and Archfiend, just because you have safe combos that you can go to regardless of the outcome. That's the thing with like these decks that run like some form of randomness in the deck. It makes it very difficult for you to have control over it, but with this, at least we have 2 great outcomes here. Not only that, but you can banish this card from your graveyard and target 1 face-down monster your opponent controls and change it to face-up attack or defense position. And this is if your opponent special summons a monster, but again gives you some more control here, so you can flip some things to your opponent's turn. And then here I run 2 copies of Triple Tactic Talents and 2 copies of Triple Tactic Stress. Kind of the same idea here. We're going to be giving them monsters, flipping them, and because the game will see it as them activating the effects, you will be able to activate these. So a lot of good value that these cards can provide. You can use the Triple Tactic Talents to, depending on the situation, draw cards, take something, or of course take away a card from their hand, which can be pretty powerful with in combination of Mimighoul Archfiend. I'm sure there's a way of activating Archfiend during your turn, then using Triple Tactic Talents, and then taking another card from their hand, and then setting an Archfiend on their turn, or during your turn, and then not flipping it until the next turn. A lot of value here, and there's definitely a way you can play the deck. Triple Tactic Stress, pretty great if you want to get the Mimighoul Room, which you can see I run 3 copies of. You usually like to see 1 copy of Terraforming because Dungeon here is very powerful. And then we have 2 copies of the new Mimighoul Fork. So Mimighoul Fork is pretty solid. The thing that sucks about it is that you're giving the opponent the option of either flipping the monster that you give them or sending it to the grave and drawing 2 cards. Obviously they're going to be playing damage control, and depending on the situation they'll change it. I don't think they're going to let you draw 2 cards often, but if you give them something that's very powerful and annoying, then they probably will, because they do get to see what's going on their field before that. I think it's worth considering, and running it at 2 here is nice, but in the future I could see it being dropped one copy of Caught by the Grave because hand traps, 3 copies of Dungeon. This card just kind of helps put the deck all together. Mimighoul monsters you control that were not that normal or special summon this turn gain attack equal to their original defense. So this is nice, of course, because then you can just beef up all your Mimighoul monsters. It gets them pretty strong during your opponent's turn. And any player who controls a face-down monster cannot normal summon, nor declare an attack with monsters that were special summoned this turn. So obviously you're going to give them a face-down card, usually through Mimighoul Room or whatever way, or activating the Mimighoul's effects. And then from there, you just keep them locked out of their normal summon. You do have to be careful though, because once you flip it, then they're not going to have a face down monster and they're going to be able to do what they want. And not only that, but of course, in the spirit of keeping up with like the strong field spells, during your main phase, you can add 1 Mimighoul monster from your deck or grave to your hand. And then here we have 3 copies of Mimighoul Room. This is one way of just putting a Mimighoul monster from your hand or deck to your field, or you can put it on your opponent's side of the field, which you're going to be doing most of the time, and then you're going to be able to flip a monster in the field to face some defense position. So the idea with this is just so that you can kind of reset something, but most of the time you're just going to be utilizing this effect just to give your opponent a Mimighoul monster and then flip one of their face-up monsters that they don't want to get flipped. And a bonus effect there is that you can banish this card from your grave and target any number of Mimighoul cards you control and return them to the hand, which could be relevant at times if there's a board wipe. Then you can just recycle your materials right before that. Alright guys, before I cover the extra deck, if you are enjoying the video, consider becoming a patron. For just $5 a month, you can get access to my Discord and I can give you guys some deck building advice. And there's more tiers that influence the content I make, so make sure to check out my Patreon in the description down below. But besides that, you could always support me by like, commenting, subscribing, and all that. And let's get started here. So we're gonna run 1 copy of Zeus. Zeus is just, you can see a bunch of Exceed monsters going into it, and of course we have Downer Magician for that reason. Typhon is great too if you're going second and you need a way of just clearing out the board or nullifying at least what your opponent might have built up. Then that's a great way of doing so. Then we have 2 copies of the new Giant Mimighoul. So this card is pretty great just because it does give your Mimighoul monsters the ability to attack directly while your opponent controls a face-down monster, which is going to be often. And when it's Exceed Summon, you can add a Mimighoul card from your deck to your hand. So this is powerful if you want to just search out your Mimighoul Room, which you're going to see in a lot of the combos. And then you can attach 1 material from this card, then target face-up cards on the field up to a number of face-down monsters your opponent controls and destroy them. So you're going to be able to destroy a bunch of cards your opponent has on the board, and that's always good to see. 1 copy of number 13 Embodiment of Crime. I think this card's pretty nice just because it does give you the ability to flip your opponent's stuff. So you're obviously going to use this after you give your opponent something. 2 copies of Mimighoul Throne. This is going to be your way of getting out the Mimighoul Master. And then during the main phase quick effect, you can target 1 Mimighoul Master you control, equip this card to it as an equip spell that gives it 1000 attack, and then you can bounce some things equal to the material. Then we have Fuko here, unaffected by other cards' effects. Once return quick effect, you can attach 2 materials from this card, and this card cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card, so that's always good if you're trying to go into an easy Zeus, is you can attack with this, detach it to materials, get the Downer Magician, and then 1 use Zeus. And then we have Lyrillus Assembled Nightingale. This is of course a very powerful rank 1. And then we have Axical Talker if you need some OTK potential. SP Little Knight, you're going to see in a combo you can go into this pretty easily with the Ice Pink Masquerade, of course. And we do have Mimighoul Dragon that we utilize a lot, so Hieratic Seal is a fun little card to play here that I do see could be replaced over time. And then Relinquish Anima, we have a bunch of level 1 monsters, so why not go into Anima? And then for the side deck are cards for you to consider, but I ended up just not running. So as I covered in the card reveal, Mimighoul Armor, it just isn't that strong, and it's just going to make your Mimighoul monsters cannot be destroyed with battle. It just isn't worth the value. You're not going to be getting it out a lot. And then Cerberus, we just have the better version in the form of Slime. It's more consistent, and we just want to get rid of those X factors. And same thing with Mimighoul Charm. It's pretty fun. In the card reveal, I thought it was a pretty funny idea, just being able to take a bunch of your opponent's things, but it's just monsters that aren't going to synergize extremely well with the deck. You do need ways of triggering it a lot. I think it's a fun card, and I think it's worth running and testing it if you want to see if you like it, but otherwise we're not going to be running it here. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for the combos, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.